the 2013 Candidate Forum. All right. My name is Julie Estman, and I want to, on behalf of all our sponsors and the League of Women Voters in Irving, I want to welcome you and thank you for coming out tonight. We're going to start with Mona Wyatt, who is our League of Women Voters president, and she'll say a few words, and then we'll get started on the questions. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here tonight. I'm pleased to see you, and I also like to issue an invitation to you to attend a meeting, any other meeting that the League of Women Voters offers. We'd be happy to see you there. If you'd like information about any gathering we have, be sure that we have your contact information at the desk out in the front, and we'd be delighted to see you there, and even more delighted to have you join our organization. One thing that we always have to say right up front is that the League is a nonpartisan organization. We may seem political because we are involved in our city government and schools, and we encourage citizens to become involved, interested, take part. But it's important for you to know that the League does not support or oppose any political party or any candidate. We're nonpartisan, so we don't take sides as a League. We also publish a voter's guide. We used to do that on paper. Now we do it online. If you'll go to vote411.org, you can find out all kinds of information about our candidates and many other things. You may have received this little handout when you came in. It gives you some instructions if this is your first time to try it. Take this home, share it with your friends. Look us up, vote411.org, and become acquainted with our website, lwvirving.org. I wanted to thank our sponsors for tonight, the Chamber, the Hispanic Chamber and Las Colinas Association, and the city and ICTN. We're all grateful for their help. Without them, we would not be here tonight. So thank you again. And the other thing I needed to tell you was that it's League policy to include in the forum only those races where the candidate has an opponent. So City Council, you'll notice that Gerald Ferris is not here because he, lucky or not for him, maybe, he has no opponent. So he's not taking place in the questioning tonight, the same way with school board candidates when we get to that. Now, the most fun I have tonight is to introduce our moderator. Her face might be familiar to some of you. She was here last year. Her name is Catherine Holman. She's from the Dallas League of Women Voters. She's an experienced moderator, has had experience being the president of the League of Women Voters of Dallas, and who knows what else. It's our pleasure to have Catherine with us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, it's good to be back here again. Just so that we all understand the format that we're going to be using tonight, I'm going to run through the rules. First, no questions will be taken from the audience. This is the second year that the League has run a month-long campaign ahead of time, asking for questions to be submitted online through their website. What I will be asking the candidates tonight has been selected by both the Irving League members and their co-sponsors from that online pool of questions. We will be hearing from the 8 City Council candidates first. We'll take a short changing of the candidates break, and then the school board candidates from the Irving ISD and the Carrollton Farmers Branch ISD will be up second. After the candidates make their 1-minute introductions, I will begin The questioning always alternating which candidate answers first. Each candidate has 1 minute to respond, and we have a timekeeper down in front holding up signs to let the candidates know when they are running out of time. Finally, once all the questions have been asked, candidates will make their 1 minute closing statements. So, before the candidates begin with their 1 minute introductory statements, let's give them a round of applause and appreciation. Would everyone now make sure that they have quieted their cell phones, and for the duration of the forum, refrain from applauding or in any way showing support or non-support of a candidate. And I've got, is Officer Ickes around to help me in case I need any help? All right. So we're opening now with Luis Reyes, who's running for place 1. Mr. Reyes, please tell us in 1 minute or less your qualifications and why you want to be elected for City Council. Also, please tell us about your most recent involvement with the city or the City Council. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Luis Reyes. I moved to this city back in 1986, and I've been involved with the city for the last 10 years. I've been working as a constructor and building some new houses in the south of Irving. And I feel that I can give my knowledge, share my knowledge with the community. And I know we had a beautiful city, but we can do much better.
All right. We have next place 1 candidate, Lauren Byers. Mr. Byers, you have 1 minute to give us your qualifications, why you want to be elected, and your most recent involvement with the city.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this evening. Thank you very much. My name is Lauren Byers, running for Irving City Council, place 1. I have, of course, qualify by the city charter. I have also have extensive business experience. I have also been active since the 1970s in city politics. I have been an election judge, precinct chair, and most recently an elector for you to vote for president. I was involved in a citizen organization to prevent fill-in of a flood zone to save about 200 houses in our community. Very proud of that. Also, as I was in with Delta Airlines, I ran the charitable organization for donating to needy families in both Tarrant and Dallas counties for 12 years. Thank you.
Okay, place 1 candidate, Juan Martin Ronco Jr. Mr. Ronco, 1 minute to give us your qualifications, why you want to be elected, and your most recent involvement with the city.
Good evening. Good Earth Day, actually. And once again, thank you to the League of Women Voters. Thank you for that opportunity for us to be here. I believe in the city of Irving. I believe in the potential our city has. I believe in our community. I've been living here since I was a baby. I was actually born in Uvalde, Texas, south of San Antonio, but I got here as soon as I could. So I love my community. I grew in a family that believes in service. I was in the safety patrol all the way to senior class co-president at the Academy of Irving ISD, to serving our country in a uniform. And I want to bring that commitment to this community, and that's the kind of commitment that I plan to have for our city and for our district. I believe in the potential our city has to be competitive, to be a leader, to be a role model city as we go into the 21st century. Again, thank you for your time. Thank you.
Place 1 candidate, John Danish. Mr. Danish, you have 1 minute.
Good evening. My name is John Danish. I was born and raised here in Irving. I graduated from Irving High in 1968. My father was a minister in the corner of 6th and Nursery for 52 years, which is in the heart of the district. His ministry was to serve. In that capacity, my ministry has been in public service. Over the last 30 years, I've been your planning and zoning commissioner in the decades of the 80s, 90s, and 20s. I got to be chairman of that. I've been your city councilman, and currently in most recent service is as your representative on Dallas Area Rapid Transit Board of Directors. I serve currently as the chairman of the Dallas Area Rapid Transit Board, and we're very excited about building the Orange Line out to Terminal A at DFW Airport. After many years of investment and commitment, the City of Irving is ready to reap the harvest of that, and I believe that will translate into significant development in District 1 at Heritage Crossroads. Thank you, and I look forward to talking about that in the future as we discuss these issues. Thank you.
We're going to put up the names so you'll remember who these candidates are. We're a little slow, but we're going to not interrupt their discussion about their qualifications.
Right now, we'll go with place 2 candidate, Kensley Stewart. Mr. Stewart, 1 minute to tell us your qualifications, why you want to be elected, and your most recent involvement with the city.
Thank you. I've been an active participant at City Hall for a number of years now, making sure that the City Council operates in the way and the manner in which they're supposed to make sure that the city is staying within the proper role of government. Recently, I was appointed to the Charter Review Committee and was very active in the 25 amendments that you're going to see before you on the May 11th election. As I said, I was very active on that. I'm very proud of the work product that we were able to produce, present to the council to be then presented to the city. And I would ask for your vote on May the 11th. Thank you.
Place 2 candidate, Alan Meager. You have 1 minute to tell us your qualifications, why you want to be elected, and your most recent involvement with the city.
Thank you. My name is Alan Meager. First of all, I was born and raised here in Irving, Texas. I'm 50 years old and lived here my entire life. I was raised with 7 children. I'm the only one that stayed here in Irving. I've raised my children here in Irving. I'd like them to stay. That's one of the reasons I am running for city council. I was able and I was privileged to serve 3 terms on the Irving City Council, and before that I served 5 years on the Planning and Zoning Commission. I was able to learn quite a bit about our city. One thing I always have done and I'd like to do is continue to improve the quality of life for all the residents here in our city. That's the main thing I want to do. I've worked with the same company for 25 years in management, and I'm not here for any other reason but for the residents of Irving and to keep the quality of life, to improve it, improve the infrastructure, to get city moving forward, to clean it up. We need to continue at all times to make our city better, to bring new businesses to Irving and keep the ones that we do have. It's very important for the taxpayers of our city. And I appreciate it and thank you very much.
Thank you. Place 2 candidate, Francis Schomer. Mr. Schomer, 1 minute.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm an 18-year-old senior from North Hills Preparatory, the charter school in Las Colinas, and I am running because I am a unique representative of the next generation who would like to step up to the plate and have a say in which direction this beautiful city is heading. Now, many of the residents I've encountered they feel that the 20 or so people who attend every city council meeting are getting the biggest say in the city council, what they decide on, because maybe they work, maybe they have kids. I'm the eldest boy of 7 children, so I know what it's like to have a busy life. And they just feel like they want to get involved, but they can't. And so I feel like I can help them get involved and increase the communication with the council to all residents of Irving. Thank you.
And place 2 candidate, Renee Castilla. 1 minute.
There you go.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the League of Women Voters also for hosting this candidates forum. My name is Renee Castilla, and I recently retired from Northlake College as Executive Dean of the South Campus after a 27-year career with Northlake College. I joined the college in 1987, first as a journalism and English professor, then I was promoted as the Dean of the Liberal Arts Department, then as Executive Dean of the South Campus. In fact, I was the college administrator in charge of the development of that whole project that you see on the corner of Shady Grove and MacArthur Boulevard. I've been active in Irving since I arrived here. I've served in many civic organizations, chairman of most of those organizations, and I now, since I'm retired, I have the interest, desire, and the inclination to be the next city council for Place 2.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move now to the questions. Will they be brought up onto the monitors? There we go. The first question is, do you favor an economic development department within the Irving Chamber of Commerce or within the city of Irving? Please explain. And we will start with Mr. Byers. You have 1 minute.
Thank you. I have looked at that and responded to the league that I believe that the present system is working for Irving. The chamber shows a good cost benefit. There is no salient argument for ending that relationship. Bringing a department in-house, you're adding to a bigger city government, a bureaucracy, another layer of bureaucracy, whereas with the contract that we have with the chamber, it is an outside organization that has very good contacts with the business community and has very good feedback from the business community to be able to provide a very good product. And we have seen that, what they have done for us in the past, and we are seeing that they are now shifting their focus more and more to the south to help us develop here as well. So thank you.
Right, next, Mr. Ronco, that same question.
I feel that as we progress into the next decade, I do believe that we need to work together with the Chamber of Commerce and the City Council in order to prosper. I do believe in what the good that has come out of working together, and I do look forward to working with the Chamber of Commerce. I'm very excited about the projects that are coming to Irving. I see a lot of, like I mentioned, a lot of potential. There's a lot of potential. I already see. It's very exciting. I'm very enthusiastic about what we can do together if we work together, and I definitely would like to see more progress. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Danish, do you favor Economic Development Department inside the Chamber of Commerce or the City of Irving?
My candidacy is going to be very excited about the opportunities of economic development in District 1. Around this area, approximately 80 acres of land has now been land banked. That is on the taxpayers' credit to the tune of millions of dollars. It's critically important that we move forward and develop that into single-family ownership to stimulate the retail in our traditional downtown Irving area. It's important that we use all the tools of economic development. That includes the Irving Chamber of Commerce and the City of Irving working together as a maximum team effort to find how to give the incentives that's necessary to come forward with this market. I believe that the economy is turning, and I believe that there are great opportunities ahead for Irving. In fact, I believe that Irving's best days are still ahead, and why not start right here in District 1?
Thank you. Mr. Stewart, inside or outside of the city?
Definitely outside the city. Anytime you bring something such as economic development into the city, you're growing government. When you grow government, what comes right behind is increased taxes. When you put the city government, who's already doing permits and providing incentives, now you're going to have them doing economic development. They're going to start picking winners and losers. I would be adamantly against this proposal. Thank you.
Mr. Meager, 1 minute.
Our Irving City, the Chamber of Commerce is actually working very well with the economic development in our city. When I served on the council, we had a lot of meetings with the builders, the developers, the current property owners. The chamber gets out there and talks to everybody. They try to keep the residents in here, they try to keep the businesses in here, and they try to bring new business, new development within the city. I believe it needs to stay within the Chamber of Commerce. They're doing a great job, and I don't see why we would need to pull that within, underneath the city of Irving rather than keep pulling it away from the Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you. Mr. Schomer.
Our chamber is a 5-star accredited chamber, which is very prestigious, and it's because they do such an amazing job with their economic development. And with 72% of the taxes that go to the city of Irving being commercial, not residential, their contract was cut from $2.4 million down to $1.5, and I'm in favor of bringing that back to where it was, because by bringing the contract back to where it was, then the residents pay lower taxes because they're able to they have a proven track record of doing more with less, and they could do even more with their previous contract, which was cut. So I am not in favor of an economic development department in Irving, because we already have an awesome chamber with a AAA plus accredited bond rating.
Thank you. Mr. Castillo.
Thank you. I think what you're going to find with Renee Castilla as your Place 2 City Council representative is an independent voice. The problem that the city has, I do favor an economic department within the city of Dallas. I do so because I think that department will guide city planning and economic strategy as it needs to do. The city for too long has outsourced many of its activities. It's outsourced water, it's outsourced transportation, and it's outsourced economic development. Without an economic development department, there is no one within the city that guides all of the planning or puts together a master plan. The absence of any development that has taken place of any extent in South Irving is the absence of a master plan that guides the city and the partners in the direction that the city should be going. So yes, I think the critical element that's missing within the city of Irving is an economic development department. I've had a conversation with Tommy Gonzalez about this over a year ago, and I said there's one thing that's missing. You did create efficiencies, but when you outsourced, you create vacuum, and right now we have a vacuum in economic development, and it needs to come back under the responsibility and the auspices of the city.
Thank you. Mr. Reyes.
I think the Chamber of Commerce of Irving has been doing a great job. I'm so proud of them as a businessman. I think what we need to do, especially in this part of the city, what I try to represent in District 1, is to build different kind of houses to everybody can get access to. That way we can, increase the income, especially on taxes for our part of the city. Especially for this District 1, we need to work together with them and make the community that are going to represent to have access to all of these projects and share the job, especially with our community, to keep the job inside of our community. Thank you.
All right. Going to the second question. What qualities, skills, and background should be considered when selecting a city manager? We'll start with you, Mr. Ronco.
What qualities and skills and background should be considered when selecting a city manager? I believe that when we select a city manager, we need someone that is committed, that understands Irving, understands its citizens, understands the needs, understands that we have potential, that we have the advantage of being in the middle of the Metroplex, and people drive through here so many times, and I believe a city manager must understand that. They must understand that we're a city full of talent, a city full of culture, tradition, and we have so much potential for the future. And I believe that when selecting a city manager, somebody that is, someone that is committed, honest, and brings forth good ideas, but someone that is also willing to work with the citizens of Irving and ready to work for the citizens of Irving. Thank you.
Mr. Danish.
Over the last 3 decades, my wife has been a flight attendant with Southwest Airlines. I got to learn and admire and watch Herb Kelleher. Herb Kelleher used to preach that the most important asset of any business is its employees. And that is critical because that's how you deserve to deliver your service and make certain that the patrons like the service and like your product. City of Irving needs to have the best employees they can have, and they need to have a morale that says, we love to come to work, we love the atmosphere here, and we will deliver the best service to our citizens. I think that the city manager needs to be the person where the buck stops. He has to be the one who tells you the accounting is out of order, we're out of balance, we're losing money. When I served with Jack Huffman and Ralph Ellis, they were the kind of people that told us what was going on and gave us clear direction that the storm warnings are out there, the great clouds are developing, you need to take action.
Thank you. Mr. Stewart.
We need to find a city manager that has a history of leadership, that has a history of managing a city in comparable size to Irving. And we need to have somebody who also has a history of stability and not going from city to city to city, collecting his compensation packages as he leaves. We need someone with that strong history of stability so that we know that he or she will stay here for the longevity, not just the next stepping stone. Thank you.
Mr. Meager.
Well, I was privileged to be here in the search of the last city manager, and a lot of the applicants were city managers that had worked in other cities for 20 and 30 years and were coming here to retire, basically. They wanted to serve just 5 or 6 years. I'd like to see someone who's planning on staying around a little bit longer and with the great leadership skills. But the number one thing, like the other candidates have said, is people skills. The only way to get the job done is to have good people skills and get the work done through your employees. Employees have to be treated fairly and honestly. You get that done, the employees come to work, they have good work ethic, and we get the job done. As far as background, as long as he has the knowledge, the leadership skills to run a city, manage the budget, and take care of the conflicts that happen within the city. Thank you.
Mr. Schumer.
I think that we need a city manager who is able to save the city of Irving money by not being afraid to cut jobs that the Irving residents do not feel that they're getting the full service out of, and by promoting the jobs that the residents do feel that they get a really good service from, and making sure those are running at top efficiency, because the money saved by the city manager by moving people around and cutting the useless jobs could be used for better projects, that the residents want, and and also keep taxes low for the residents.
Thank you. Mr. Castillo.
Thank you. Let me say, here's how I would approach the answer to that question. If I were at this council, what I would hope that the council would do at this time is, number one, that the council develop a profile of its own, of what it as a body wants in the city manager. Then I would ask a group of people like the citizens, what would you like to see in a city manager? And I would develop that profile from all the input that was given to the council by the council members and by the citizens' input, and then take that information and put it into one folder. Then we would begin looking for a search firm. Then we would find a search firm, put out what we're looking for in a search firm, profile the search firm, then make a selection. Once we've gone through the process of profiling the candidate, the type of city manager we want from input from citizens in the council, and once we've gone through profiling the type of search firm that we want, then we would select the search firm. Once we've selected the search firm, we would give him the profile and say, this is the person that we are looking for and the qualities that we expect him to have. Find us that individual. That prevents them from bringing us just anybody and everybody who wants to be a city manager. It's a more structured, a more practical, and a more focused way of approaching the selection of a city manager, and that's the way I would answer this particular question. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Reyes.
Well, like I said a while ago, first of all, we need to check to find out what kind of background he is, where he comes from, what kind of skill, what are his knowledge, and all of that stuff to make sure who's going to, take the direction of this beautiful city. But I think that I'm always thinking that in our city we have all those all those people that we can. We don't have to go to a major city like New York or any other country because he's been a city manager of New York. I think we need to find somebody who know our needed, what this city needs. I mean, somebody who grew up in this beautiful city so he can know, what are the biggest needs because he was, he went to our high school and things like that. So that way, he's not going to be surprised asking for some money because he wants to do this project or something like that. But first of all, I agree with Mr. Castilla. We need to let our community to have the feedback of them and see what kind of people they want to see in that very important office. Thank you.
And Mr. Byers.
Thank you. There seems to be a real long laundry list up here. Hopefully I can condense it down to what I feel are the important ones. I guess first and foremost that we do a background check on whomever it is, make sure they're not a felon. But besides the obvious, we need to have somebody that is fiscally responsible, someone that has a successful background and career in a city this size or bigger and has good reputation in that city. He has an ethical history and exhibits outstanding leadership, takes responsibility for his actions, has got a record of stability, has a vision for the future, and is great at conflict resolution. Thank you very much.
Okay, next question. What is your position on Irving's infrastructure with regards to the city's water supply and sewage processing? Mr. Danish, we'll start with you.
I believe that water is one of the great challenges of the future. Our city is now over 200,000, approaching 225,000 people. This is a critical resource, and a lot of the opportunities that lie ahead may well be tied to our transportation effort. We may well be able to use some of the transit corridors, such as the Burlington Northern Santa Fe corridor that goes north-south from South Irving Station through Carrollton on to Frisco up toward the Medill, Oklahoma. That particular corridor would lend itself very well for a water supply pipeline. The watershed in Oklahoma is much greater than what we have in our city. If we can find a way to link up to that, that would help us very well meet the future demands. When I was on the council, I had the privilege of working with the Cooper Reservoir, and we were successful in getting that pipeline connected, and that has served us well. We need to do that also now for the future on water. Thank you.
Mr. Stewart.
We need to continue developing the relationships that we have both with East Texas and exploring the possibilities that we have up in Oklahoma. As I understand, there's still a court case pending on that to determine whether or not that's even going to be a future possibility. We need to continue to reach out to other areas and seek out other resources for water. As one councilman refers to it, it's blue gold. It's going to be a necessity. We've got to have it. There's no other way around it. We need to also consider conserving as much as we can through water use programs and encouraging the residents to use less water and without infringing on their personal liberties and them being allowed to have the type yards and landscapes that they choose. But we need to continue reaching out and building relationships and capitalize on resources that we already have. Thank you.
And Mr. Meager?
Water has always been very important to not just the city of Irving, but the surrounding cities. We've been lucky enough to have our own water supply to keep our water rates low for the citizens of Irving. One thing we need to do is continue to look for new water supplies, new sources of water for the city. One thing we did for years and we're still doing is looking for water from East Texas all the way up into Oklahoma. We have secured certain right-of-ways. We can build a pipeline all the way up to Oklahoma. We need to continue, possibly purchase or lease those right-of-ways and continue to get this to build a pipeline, which would not only benefit the city of Irving, as far as bringing water to us, but also revenue coming in by other cities using our pipelines that we build and they pay for. As far as the sewage processing, that's something we really need to look into. Right now we're paying the city of Dallas for all sewage processing. That's a moneymaker right there if it's done correctly. We have the pipelines, we have the way to do it, and it's something we need to do with the city of Irving to look at to improve the cost to the city of Irving. Thank you.
Mr. Schomer.
Water is very important, like the other candidate said, and especially when the summers are very hot and there's there's times where there could be a possibility of a drought, and it's very important that Irving is prepared for such a scenario, and we have the resources. Then we should make it a very high priority that we are able to have as much water as we need to last throughout the hot summers. And with regards to sewage processing, if Irving does have the resources to save money with the city of Dallas by having them do it versus doing it ourselves, then we should make sure that we're getting the best economic deal. Thank you.
Mr. Castillo.
Thank you. The city has been engaging in contracts with individuals on this very subject of water. And after studying the issue over the last several months, there are really, as I'm learning, three aspects of water. One is water development, which includes sewage processing. Two is water acquisition, which the city's in the process of doing, trying to get water from Oklahoma. And the third is legislative regulations and that sort of thing. So if we realize the importance of water, then we need to have, if we're going to go outside with people to assist us in those three areas, not one person trying to do all three areas, because it's really more comprehensive than just letting one group do that, all three. But to get the specialists that can come to us and focus on those three areas, and then incorporate with that water conservation, because that's one element that doesn't seem to be discussed very much in this whole discussion of water. So my approach to this thing would be to look at specialists, if we're going to go outside for specialists, in those three areas, which I think are very important and which will take us into the future.
Thank you. Mr. Reyes.
Yes, I think that water is the most important thing that we need to think about it, how to concern, how to dealing with the biggest problem that we're having on the present, and to think how it's going to be in the next 10 or 20 years for our next generations. When they asked me that question a couple of weeks ago, my answer was to get in touch, to get a conversation with our neighbor cities like Grand Prairie, especially that we had the Trinity River that divided both cities. So we can think, have some conversation with them and see what we can build in them. Probably not for the next year, but for at least for the next 10 years to make the resource just around in our period. Thank you.
Mr. Byers.
Thank you. Water is important, as everybody has illustrated here. We have a very good plan in place right now, and we are continuing that. And that vision that brought us Cooper Lake and the opportunities in Oklahoma has to be continued so that we can continually expand. We also need to look at our infrastructure here, our aging infrastructure here, because we lose a lot of water with the pipes that we have and the infrastructure we have in the ground at this time. So we have to look at that and technologies that are available to conserve water, to recondition those pipes, and also in sewage effluents and the processing of that. There's a lot of new technologies coming out, and there's a lot of possibilities if we were to develop those along with private industry. We could take advantage of those things to be able to free ourselves at the expense of having Dallas take care of our sewage effluents. So we might be able to prosper on that. Thank you very much.
Yes, Mr. Ronco.
As many of you know, today is Earth Day, and it's very significant that we talk about this matter right now. I'm very fond, and to me it's really deep to me to take care of our planet and to take care of our community. I recycle at home, and I try to, one of the things I would like to do as a city councilman is to not just the city, but have the city be the role model for the community and for the surrounding areas. Promote conservation, promote sustainability. Starts with the city being the example and helping its citizens, encourage citizens to follow suit and set the example. Therefore, if we all make a difference, together we make a change. And that's my vision for Irving, is to be a role model city and be able to have sustainability for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. There are 25 charter propositions in the upcoming election. Tell us about two that you support or oppose, and why? Mr. Stewart, we'll start with you.
Having served on the Charter Review Committee, I like all 25 of them, but that's not the question. The two that I favor the most are the requirement for any contract with the city where there's reimbursable expenses. There must be an audit clause on behalf of the city for that to be a valid contract. We've had recent contracts where we were unable to go in and look around and see what those reimbursables were actually spent on. Had that clause been in that contract, we wouldn't be having this particular conversation right now today. The other one that I'm extremely proud of is actually a two-part proposal, and that's voter initiative and voter referendum, allowing the citizens of the city of Irving to actually have a say-so in the ordinances that get passed or get rescinded by the voters. And those are the two that I really am the most proud of. But all 25, thank you.
Mr. Meager.
Basically, I've stayed out of a lot of the questions people ask me at the charter because it is up to the city voters to look at this and with no persuasion from the city council or any of the members there. But there are two that I do like. That's number 4, which Mr. Stewart brought up, which is the reviewable of the contracts what the city has. It's a very good charter amendment to put in there. The other one was number 20, and that is the yearly evaluation of the city manager. It's a nice amendment to put in there, but those are the two that you're asking about in this question, and I do favor them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schomer.
I am in support of all. I also like all 25 of them, but there are not two that I could that I would like to call out to any attention. Thank you.
Mr. Castillo.
Thank you very much. I have to agree that Oscar Ward was the chairman of that Charter Review Committee, and I know him well, and he did his homework and he did his research, and they've probably done more work on the city charter than any Charter Review Committee has ever done. So with that, I'm going to endorse with the work that they've done and say I favor them all. So you read them, you select the ones that you like the most and support those, but I think that the work that was done by them was well done, and I applaud your work and I support your 25 propositions.
Mr. Reyes.
Thank you. I'm so proud of the way they wrote those amendment, and I agree with all 25, especially with the 20. And I disagree with anyone. Thank you.
Mr. Byers.
Thank you. I tend to agree with them. I know Oscar, I know Kensley, and I know most of the people that were on that board as well, and I do applaud their remarkable work. Is what I think I like the most is that they took the time to do a lot of clarifications to make it easier to understand and read. That was tedious work that went on in some cases, I understand, so they need to be applauded for their tenacity as well in making sure that we have a very good charter that we can all read and understand. Additionally, I like the audit that two of the members of the panel have already brought up. The referendum, the voter referendum is great, and also I like all 25 of them. It's really hard to pull any out. So please do support the all referendums and propositions on the ballot. Thank you.
Mr. Ronco.
In regards to the charter propositions, I'm very pleased to see the progress compared to the old charter. One particular amendment I'm very supportive of is the city manager evaluation. Just like coming from the military, its leaders are evaluating how can we be better, and I think that's one of the aspects that's going to help our city, help our leaders be better, telling them what needs to, how can we be better. It's always about improvement. Another particular amendment is little disagreement with this city council increase of pay. If it were up to me, I'd do it for free. You know, if citizens are taking pay cuts, and so should its public servants. But that's overall, I'm very supportive of it, and thank you.
Mr. Danish.
I want to echo the commendation to the Charter Review Committee and Oscar Ward for a job well done. I also would support all of them. As a chairman of the DART board, we have an annual review of our executive director. And I think the city manager needs to be reviewed by the council once a year on an annualized basis to come up with a plan and direction of what you want to do and have a review of the progress from the last review. So it's just a critical thing that should be done. I also believe in initiative of referendum. In my career, I've had to initiate 2 referendums, one on single-member districts, the other on alcohol and Texas Stadium. This makes it a lot easier than going out and getting 3,000 signatures. Finally, I did have the privilege of working for the city council at $100 a month. If you choose to pay me $900, I'm not going to object. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next question. What services and financial support should the city provide for domestic violence victims? Mr. Meager, we're going to start with you.
Right now, we do have certain locations or a location within the city of Irving that helps out for domestic violence. That is something I feel that the city as a whole should support. We need to protect, I would say domestic violence could be either way, but we need to protect the people within our city. We need to have a place, a safe place where people that are involved in domestic violence can go. It is very important. They have to have an option to get out. So yes, I believe financial support is very important, but first of all, you have to have a safe place where people know they can get away and they don't have to stay in an abusive situation. Thank you.
Mr. Schomer.
I believe that the city should provide some, but that we should leave the majority of private organizations taking charge and helping domestic violence victims, because after the police show up and take care of it and they get to safety, then it is important that they have a place to go. And if there are not that many private organizations that are willing to step up, then the city of Irving should provide service to them. Thank you.
Mr. Castillo.
Yes, thank you. I think the Community Block Grant Development Advisory Board provides funding for nonprofit organizations, including the ones with the Advocacy Center that addresses the issue of domestic violence. I think that CDBG has been involved in that since we started getting CDBG funds, and that's a source of funding for this activity. But I think what we need to do is bring more visibility to the issue of domestic violence and not shove it under the rug and just pretend like it doesn't happen, but to really address it, first of all, as your leadership, that we should take a position as your leadership and say domestic violence is just not acceptable in our community, and we want everything possible done to stop that sort of thing and provide assistance through the police department as they're doing, but through other agencies that we have in the city that address individuals in this circumstance.
Mr. Reyes.
Thank you. I remember when I took a police academy for citizens, in each class it was a different officer from different department of our police that showed us their duties. And when they explained to us in one of those classes, they showed up about those problems that we had in our community. One of the biggest issues that we had, especially in our Spanish community, is sometimes they don't tell nobody about it because they're afraid to call the police or something like that. So I think what we need as a member of the city council, we need to give some more information, especially to our Spanish community, to tell to don't be afraid. Do some commercial thing that just to call the police. I know we had a great police department and they do their best, but especially our community afraid to be involved with our activities. Thank you.
Mr. Byers.
Thank you. It's intolerable to have such a large amount of domestic violence out there that we need to look at proactive means and educational means and protective means to be able to provide the safety to our citizens. That said, we do have some programs in place. We used to have in the city a Ministers Alliance, and I would like to see something along that lines be facilitated by the city to be able to organize all of the volunteer groups and activities in the city to be able to provide safe havens across the city at different locations and in different venues to be able to provide the protection that is needed for victims of domestic violence. And I would like to see prosecution stepped up on those as well. I certainly do appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Ronco.
I definitely would like to see city councils take a role in helping, guiding the private organizations that are already in place. I would like to see that be addressed more because just like homelessness or youth runaways here in Irving, I believe this is a very important issue that we need to address and make sure that the citizens are aware of that we're here to serve you and that we're here to provide the best for the citizens, and that this is a place to call home. This is Irving, Texas, and it's a great place to raise a family, and we need to help each other, us as public servants, to help the citizens get the citizens out of the shadows that are afraid to report domestic violence, and work with the agencies, police department, and other private organizations. Thank you.
Mr. Danish.
As a former president and founding member of the board of directors of New Tomorrows, Inc., an Irving organization to assist victims of domestic violence, in my former tenure on the city council, we were successful in obtaining the facility that Alan Meager has referred to. I've always been in support of this. I believe that it's a critical issue that does need to be dealt with in our society. New Tomorrows has now been absorbed by Better Tomorrows, and they're doing a great job working on this front. And I will continue to be very sensitive to this challenge for the people that sometimes unfortunately find themselves as victims of domestic violence.
Mr. Stewart.
We definitely need to be mindful of one of the city's primary functions, primary duties is to protect public safety. Victims of domestic violence, they're not just members of the public, they're also an extremely vulnerable part of our population. And as such, we need to be mindful of the needs and the safety therein. So yes, I would definitely be in favor of supporting victims of domestic violence in any way that the city can, as long as it still remains within the proper role of government, and to make sure that we have proper funding through the different organizations and the support mechanisms that need to be in place as well. Thank you.
All right, we have one more question. A $246,000 grant exists from Irving's Housing and Human Resources Department for a house for homeless students working towards graduation from high schools in Irving. Will you support this measure when it comes before the City Council? Why or why not? So we're talking about a grant that's going to come up for consideration. Will you support it, and if so, why or why not? Mr. Schomer, we'll start with you.
Well, I would have to say that it's what the residents of Irving want, and I want to help their voice be heard. But the homeless students in Irving is a very big issue and should be, and with the organizations that are already in place that do not require or that do not have city funding, if there are still homeless students and they don't have no other place to go, then I would support, because I am a high school student, and if you are trying to work to have a better future, it's very important that you have a very safe place to be, to sleep and do your homework and all that. Thank you.
Mr. Castillo.
Thank you. This is probably an example of what my concern is when I say there's an absence of a master plan for our city, is that we get projects like this that are brought before the council, and we scurry and we talk and we debate. We say, oh, let's go do that because it's a good idea. But we never look and see how it fits into the scheme of things. Where does it go? Is this a program that really we should provide the funding because it's there through CDBG, but is this one where we establish a partnership with the school district because they deal with homeless kids and dropouts and that sort of thing, and maybe work with them on just how this program would work, if housing is necessary, how they would be housed and where? that is more of a strategic plan in addressing this particular issue. It's not whether it's a good idea or a bad idea, it's how will you implement it. And the third thing is, how do you define a high school, a homeless student? What's that age group? Are we talking about 16 to 18? Are we talking about 18 to 24? What is the age group that is there? A lot of questions that need to be asked, but I think it's part of a strategic plan on approaching a problem like this in our city and a comprehensive solution, because we looked at it in a strategic way and we developed a strategic plan that made it work for us and for the students we're trying to serve.
Mr. Reyes.
Thank you. I think this be great. We need to take advantage of this, especially for this grant. And to me, this is like investing in our community, investing in our youth, investing in our own future. All those bad things that we see around of our country, I mean, like we saw last week in Boston and things like that, I think it's because we don't pay enough attention to our youth. And it'd be great if we tell them that we care about them, and we know that we love them and we want to them get a better future, not just for them. I mean, that $246,000, that's nothing that what we're going to get back to get those professionals inside of our city limit. That'd be a wonderful idea. Thank you so much.
Mr. Reyes. Mr. Byers.
Thank you. You almost got to answer twice. $246,000 sounds like a lot, but without the proper planning, without the vision being focused in detail, we don't know if that is enough, or we don't know if it's too much. We need to have more planning. So I guess I'd have to be against it for right now. I think it's a really good, feel-good thing. I think you can find a lot of great reasons that we need to do it and should do it, and that the youth is our future. So by golly, it sounds like a great idea, but it sure does sound awfully vague. Do we put one right here in the center of the city? Do we have them around the city? Where would they best be placed? We don't have any of those answers. So for right now, until we get those answers, we can't or shouldn't be spending the taxpayers' money frivolously. Thank you very much.
Mr. Ronco.
Thank you. I have to say that what I would like to see is more cooperation with the city of Irving and the district. I would like to see, first and foremost, before you diagnose any, like whenever you're sick, you want to diagnose it right. You want to identify the problems. Why are we having homeless students? What can I as a citizen or I as a representative of the government do to help prevent this in the first place? So we have to work also to prevent homelessness. To me, it's very important. It's vital to our city. It's, again, that's has been mentioned. It's important that we take care of our youth. I do support this measure, but I also do believe we need to identify and help prevent student homelessness. Thank you.
Mr. Danish.
As the former chair appointed by former Mayor Joe Putnam of the I Serve Irving South Economic Resource Values and Economics Committee, formed to assess conditions and responses to needs in South Irving, we concluded that there was an unbelievable challenge in the Irving School District. Jack Singley, the former superintendent, testified to our committee, and in those days showed that this school district was moving to 80% economically disadvantaged. That is a staggering number. The city of Irving must assist and do everything possible to work with our school district to help all of our children achieve the best they can be, and with it, our city will always improve and be the best it can be. I support a grant of federal money. It's very little different than the grant that we're using right now to subsidize the lunches for these poor children who come to our school district.
Mr. Stewart.
If the $246,000 has no strings attached to it, and there's enough working parts in place to provide the adequate support, I would absolutely support something like this. For a high school student who happens to be homeless, the temptation to drop out, I would imagine, would probably be immense. So providing home shelter for a high school student who wants to graduate from high school, absolutely, it must be done. As I said, if this is an absolute, just a no strings grant, and there's enough working parts in place to provide the adequate supports. Thank you.
Well, that concludes the question portion of the forum for the City Council, and now I'd like...
Alan did get the intro. Thank you.
Did I forget? Did I? I already crossed your name off as though you'd spoken.
I'll tell you what, I'll go ahead and answer it real quick.
Please.
I'll just let you know the way this is worded on here. I can't say yes or no whether it's supported. $246,000 is not very much money. First of all, you have to purchase the house. You have to redo the house. But you have to know a lot of things. What is the budget? How much is it going to cost to operate this house every year? It's something we need to do for the homeless teens, but you also need to know the budget. You need to know the supervision. Who's going to pay for the supervision to be there 24 hours a day, which has to happen on homeless teens. You have to know what's the law. You're working with minors. You've got adults working with minors. You also have to be very, very careful there. So there's a lot of things that we have to look at before saying $246,000 will take care of homeless teens. It won't. There's a lot of other things you have to look at before saying, yes, I can support it, no, I will not support it. Like the supervision, the rules, the regulations, everything going on. Is this $246 going to come out every year to pay for this, or is it a one-time thing? One thing, you don't want to get into something and not have the funds the following year to support it. Thank you.
Good job. All right, we're going now to the closing statements. 1 minute for each of our candidates. And starting with Mr. Schomer. Did you? Have I lost? Mr. Castillo will be first in the closing statements.
Thank you very much for providing us candidates with this opportunity for presenting our views on the city, ourselves, and the vision that we have for tomorrow. I've set some priorities for myself just in my first year. The first priority is to get a city manager on board by the end of the year, which I think can be done. Even if the city waits until July, if we get busy, put together a profile on the kind of candidate that we want, get busy, select a search firm on the kind of candidate that we're asking them to search for, and put together an interview process to select that candidate, it can be done. My second priority is to go after ethics policy. I've watched the city council and I've seen the conflicts of interest, which just are disturbing, that we do need a stronger ethics policy, and part of my timeline is to get that in place by the end of the year. My third one is economic development, and it's one, and I'm looking at Vision 2016, that between now and 2016, we can make a difference in the development of South Irving and Heritage Crossing if we put our minds to it and focus on a strategic plan to make that happen. There is ample research information available to make it happen. We have ample plans. We can do that sort of thing, and so my commitment is by 2016, we will see dirt have been turned in the Heritage Crossing area, and you will see some development taking place. I'm looking forward to serving as your city councilman, place 2 at large. And I have a webpage, renecastilla.com, and you can go on there and read all about me. Thank you very much.
Next for a closing statement, Mr. Reyes.
Thank you. Let me tell you that I'm so proud to raise my kids in this city. My 4 kids, 3 of them, they born here in this beautiful city. My first one born in Houston. I got 3 6 grandkids that I'm so proud that they attended to our school. And I think one of my biggest challenges would be to tell my community that we're not from different parts of the world, that we are part of the city, to tell them to not to be afraid to participate. Photos like this, come to the city, we spend taxes, we leave our money in the city, so try to explain to them that this is their own city. This is our city. I think that's going to be one of my biggest challenges, to tell my South, my District 1, that we are part of this wonderful city. And if we participate together, we can do much better and have a better future for our new generation. Thank you, and God bless you.
Mr. Byers.
Thank you very much to the League of Women Voters for hosting. I have been in Texas for quite some time. 1970, after I graduated from high school, I moved to Irving in 75, where I became a naturalized Texas citizen by marrying my lovely wife, Kay. I have enjoyed my time in Irving and look forward to giving back to the community even more than I have in the past. I am well aware of a lot of things that have happened in Irving, and some people like to take advantage or take credit for them. Some people don't, try to dodge credit for them. What I want to do is take responsibility for what I do for you on the City Council. We're looking at a big opportunity here in South Irving. This is where it's going to happen. I agree that we've made a lot of plans for the downtown section, the Heritage Crossing section. What we need to do is turn some dirt and get something done right away. I have put forward some ideas and plans and propositions for the time that we need to spend down here to get things done. I certainly do appreciate it. Remember, a vote for Lauren Byers is a vote for you, for Irving, for our future. Thank you very much. You have a pleasant evening.
Mr. Ronco.
Again, thank you. Thank you to the League of Irving Women Voters. It has been my honor to be here this evening. I'm very enthusiastic and very optimistic about what the future sees, what's going to be for Irving. I come from a family, a background of service. I was brought up to serve my community, to serve people, and to help people. And then I wore the uniform of my country in the U.S. Army, and I come here to serve my community, and this is why I stand for everybody, for not just District 1, but for the citizens of all of Irving. I have two aspects I would like to work with to help Irving. Work with social aspect. Let's help our youth homeless. Let's help our youth. Let's work with the school district. Let's find solutions and identify the problems to prevent our homelessness and continue to prosper. Second, economic development. There's potential here in Irving. Let's prosper. Downtown Irving, I can see a Friday night with live music. I can see the things that could happen. Again, when time votes, consider my vote, and I will represent you to the best of my. Thank you.
Mr. Danish.
The Danish family has had 6 decades of service in Irving. It's been a real privilege to be a part of that. My wife and I have been married for 31 years. Our daughter, Karis, was born and raised in Irving, graduated from Irving High Schools. And I believe that Irving is a great place to raise your family. As your councilman in District 1, I will continue to make this a great place for you and your family and the children that will be coming into our city into the future. Although I may be last on the ballot, I hope I'm first in your heart when you go to vote on Monday, April the 29th, right here at City Hall, or Saturday, May 11th, at your particular polling place. In my district, those polling places are Lee Bretton Elementary School, Irving High School, John R. Good, and Otis Brown Elementary School. See you on Election Day. Thank you for letting us be with you tonight.
Mr. Stewart.
I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for having this forum. I'd like to thank those in attendance and those viewing for taking your time to be with us here this evening. It was recently said, someone was asked about me, and one of our city leaders, and they said, well, you always know where he stands on key issues. I've been an outspoken advocate for lower taxes, for less government, less regulation, a pro-business environment, and make sure that the city is staying within the proper role of government. Please consider Kinsley Stewart when you vote. I'll be number 1 on the ballot. If you want any more information, you go to my website. It's www.kensleystewart.com. Again, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to entertain any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Mr. Meeker.
Also, thank you very much for attending tonight. I know everybody's pretty busy, and it's nice to see this many people turn out tonight. 2 years ago, when I decided not to run for re-election, I thought, my term was over and it was time. But the more I look at things, the main thing my perspective and what I want to do is I look at the quality of life in Irving. I want my children to stay in the city. My parents were here, I came along, I've stayed, and I want my children to stay. I'm proud to say Irving is my home, and it will always be my home. One thing, when I was on the council before, the decisions I made, the first thing I looked at is how it will affect my neighbors, how it will affect the property values, and you have to look at one other thing. The decisions you make today might seem really nice. What's going to happen with that decision you made in 20 years for your children? So anytime you make a decision, you have to look at several things. You just don't look at, oh, it looks like a great plan. Think about things. How's it going to affect everybody right now, the tax values, your property values, the quality of life in the city, but also think about our future and our future of our children. My name is Alan Meager. I'm running for place 2 at large, and I appreciate your vote on Election Day. Thank you.
And Mr. Schomer.
When you are looking at the ballot and you're looking at all the names of the candidates and you vote for one, you are entrusting that candidate that they will make the best decisions, the decisions you want for Irving, and because the candidate's going to be going to hour-long meetings that you won't have to go to and be making these decisions. But a vote for Francis is, I truly want to be your voice. So if once elected, you will find that I promise you that your voice is going to be the one that's heard because as a part of the next generation, we have this amazing tool. So you're able to give input without having to go to these hour-long meetings, and you're able to get feedback on what happens at the meetings, not just the agenda, but the minutes, like the decisions that were made. So, and the amazing tool being the internet. So if vote for Francis for the future of Irving. Thank you.
Well, this concludes the City Council portion of tonight's forum. Let's show our appreciation one more time. If we could gather our things and step down so that we can take our 5-minute break, and we will reset the stage for the school board forum.
Don't anybody leave. The second half of the program will be just as entertaining and enlightening.